Great. And if you have any questions, again, feel free to unmute, or you're welcome to use the chat window. And we'll get started. And Erin, thank you so much for posting the link about the volunteer opportunities. Awesome. So we'll go ahead and jump in. For the inspiration today, some of you may be looking at this and saying, Megan, these clouds look kind of hard. How are we going to do this? We got this. Art is all about confidence and not overthinking it. And that is the attitude we're going to start with. So I love this because I feel like it's very inspirational. Clouds have always inspired me. They're just very uplifting, very like dreamlike. They kind of just make you like lose your mind in a good way. And that's just my interpretation. And I thought it'd be fun for us to paint clouds into something a little different in that regard. So we have a few more folks joining, so I'm just going to let them in. Perfect. So the orientation for today's class, you can choose. Okay. If we're really going to be unique today.
It works now.
All right. And if folks just joined, thank you so much. I'm going to ask everyone to mute themselves. Perfect. And I'll just go and check on everyone. Wonderful. All right, cool. You can choose the orientation. So maybe today, maybe we'll do horizontal today. If you wanted to do vertical, you absolutely can. The orientation is not going to disrupt the process, okay? So I will do horizontal or landscape. And we'll go ahead and jump right in. Again, folks, if you just joined, please take a moment to mute yourselves. And we'll go ahead and jump in and get going here. All right. So we're going to start easy. And you all are probably like, phew, thanks, Megan. Appreciate that. We're going to mix a light blue color together. So the first thing we're going to do is, if I sent you the blue lake, I'm going to have you put just a tiny little dollop, like the size of your pinky nail, on your plate. You don't need very much at all. And I'm going to have you open up your white. And I'm going to have you put white just nearby. And I'll do this with you. I just did a dollop of white. Now, white is going to be an important thing today. So just be mindful of how much white you're using and when. And I'm going to have you grab a big brush. Okay. So you always get your big brush wet before we get started. And you either have a large rounded brush or a large flat-headed brush. Either of those will work fine for this step. I'm getting my brush wet and I kind of wipe the water droplets off. You don't want any water kind of dripping from it. That's kind of a good point to check. And I'm going to take a corner of the blue, a little smidge, and I'm going to mix it in with the white. This allows you to control how much blue pigment you're putting into the white. And we're just mixing a nice light blue color together. Now you can see mine still looks white. That's okay. I'm going to go and get a little bit more. There we go. Just take a minute to mix these around. And we're just going for a nice light blue color. Mine's fairly light. I'm going to grab a little bit more of this blue. So for anybody that's just joining, we're just mixing a soft light blue color together. And that's good. It's just a nice light blue. We're just getting started. All right. So since our clouds are more like blues and purples, we're going to do a lighter background behind. So a little insight to our process. We're going to do a light blue background with some beautiful shining, and then we're going to put the clouds on top of it. Okay. The clouds are going to be darker than the background, and then we'll add some beautiful glow from behind. So what I'm going to have you do is, I'm going to have you start at the top of the page. And we're going to add some really pretty blue kind of brush strokes and streaks. So you can do some of these streaks if you want. So these are kind of diagonal shapes, not diagonal, but up and down. And you want to imagine where your cloud's going to be. So my cloud is going to be the size of my hand. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going big today. Okay. And imagine the positioning of the cloud. See how I'm kind of creating like a little object here, an imaginary object? And I'm going in the streaks of sun rays. This is all with intent. We're going to put the cloud on top of this, but as you paint your blue background, I want you to have fun with this, okay? You can't mess this up, I promise. Imagine this is helping the sun rays that are going to be having in between here. You can go in and get some more water. Imagine we're putting a big cloud right here and we're going to have the sun come bursting from behind it. So I'm not doing anything fancy here. But my cloud is going to be right in this middle area. And to help the process, I like to dip my brush in a little bit of water. And you can move the paint pigment around while it's wet. So you can get a little psychedelic here. This is kind of fun, right? Let loose a little bit. There's no risk in this step, I promise. And then down at the bottom, we're going to have like a mountain down here. So this line, you can kind of put a horizontal line. Like this is going to be the ground down here. So if you wanted to put it in like a little bit of a line to say, hey, Megan, don't go below this because this is the sky. So the top 3/4 of this picture is going to be sky. And the bottom, we're going to have a little bit of mountains. And you can kind of bring this all the way in. But have fun playing with a little water on your brush, kind of wipe the water droplets off. Again, you can kind of do the test of tipping your brush upside down after you drip it in water. If it's not dripping water, that's good, but it still has water on it. And in the sky, we're going to do a couple different tints of blue. And tint is when you take a hue of a color, and a hue is like blue is a hue. And a tint is when you add different amount of white to a paint to control its lightness. So right now I'm still just playing with the same color I made. The water is helping like lightening it in some areas. Now you don't have to like fill this all in right here if you don't want to, but I want to make sure that most of this is filled in because we don't know where our clouds exactly is going to be yet. I know it's going to be in this area and it's going to kind of take over, but have fun with this starburst effect of filling in the sky. And we'll bring in more lightness together, but have some fun filling in this with whatever blues you want. We want the background to be a little lighter than the clouds. So you can see this is fairly light in color. It's not too light. It's not too dark either. But this is where you can just have a little fun, let loose, and get the creative process started. Kind of nice working on a step like this where you know it's the first, it's the foundation of the painting. This background is the foundation of our painting. We're creating that vast blue sky. And if you're watching my brush strokes, you can see I'm maintaining that starburst effect. See that? And this is my point. This is like where like the biggest part of my cloud is. And if you don't know where your cloud is yet, you can see it has a central point. So I know I'm definitely going to put a big cloud over here. And for me, it's going to be fairly large. So just having some type of starburst effect in with these diagonals, right? You can see the direction. We're going to fill the whole thing in together. Now you might need more paint soon, like me. No worries. Woo! Don't fling your paintbrush across the room like me. Not such a good move. But take your time and make a little bit more paint when you need it. All right. Just making a little bit more Again, you can use water to stretch what you have. Okay. And if you build in some like white streaks naturally, that's awesome. If you don't, we'll add in a little bit of lightness. Because I have some natural streaks kind of happening for the glow, but we'll add in a little bit of that as well. So if anybody wants to start bringing in a little bit of extra white streaks for this glow behind, you could bring in a little bit of glow. This is a little bit of white paint and I'm working it in. So I'm pushing down. See that? I created some nice streaks over here. You can do that whenever you're ready to. You can make them really obvious. You could make them very soft. You can choose. But I just want you to fill in the whole background. I'm not going to worry about this like middle area down here too much. Maybe I'll just, I know I'm going to put a big cloud over this part, but I am going to make sure I do the bottom. Ooh, you can see there's like magic happening already. Magic is happening. And again, I can dip my brush in a little water. Do the upside down trip. So if I dip my brush in water and it's not dripping, it's thinking about it, but it's not. That means it's not going to create drips on your canvas. I think if you've taken these classes before, you're like, Megan, I have water drips on my canvas. What do I do? Well, next time we're going to use less water, but if you do get water drips, you can easily grab a little paper towel and kind of blot it gently. That's fine too. Sometimes it will peel up the paint, but one of the things I teach you in these classes is to not worry if something goes wrong. You can easily make an adjustment. You can easily paint over something. So it's a little bit of a no stress approach to art here, because I'm a little bit of Mary Poppins. I can help you fix anything if you need it. I have a very large magical bag I tap into. All right. So you can have fun. If you wanted to start bringing in a little bit of white, you can. I'm just kind of filling in. And again, I'm trying to stay a little bit lighter. I just brought in a little bit of a dark color here. I want to stay away from that if I can, because the cloud's going to be pretty dark. But play with bringing in a little bit of this lightness. These beautiful, this is the sun that's going to be popping out behind the clouds. Just want you to fill all the way over to the left side of the canvas. You can put a little pressure on your brush. It's kind of fun to be in control as an artist, to kind of help create your scene. And in this instance, it's pretty neat. And you don't need a lot of paint when you're doing this lightness. I'm not only filling in all these nooks and crannies, but I'm starting to bring in a little bit of these white streaks. And you can be, again, you can be as abstract or as deliberate or as soft as you want. I do want you to see them. It's an important piece of the glow that's coming behind. So if I just take this, I'm just going to do, you can play with this. I'm just using the flat side of this big brush, and I'm using a well-loved medium, kind of a round tip brush. And you can see mine's not perfect. Many of you have brand new brushes, but you can turn your brush on the side, or you can hold it on the wide angle. So with these brushes, you get familiar with your brushes as an artist. And that's something I talk about in these classes. So see, I'm creating a little bit of lightness. I'm putting just a little bit of white paint, and I'm starting to create a little bit of glow that's kind of coming from this cloud that's not here yet. But this is background details that are important. So you see, I'm kind of creating a little bit of a soft glow on top. And I don't have hardly any white paint on this brush, ladies and gents. But you can see where we're going with this. You can do as much or as little of this glow as you wish. This is where you kind of lean back in your chair and say, Do I have enough glow on the left? Do I have enough glow kind of on the right? And maintain these angles as you add in your glow. The sun shining. See that? If you wanted to use water, you could. I don't have water on my brush right now because I want the white paint to stick just a smidge. Okay, so this is your scene. Any way you want to build upon this, feel free. We are going to add a little bit of a glowing yellow down here. The other thing I'll share is we are going to put a little bit of a green mountain range down here. So if anybody wants to make sure this area down here, you know, you're going to put some green space. So for me, I'm going to kind of put my green mountain line just above this blue line. So if you want a shorter mountain, bring this blue line down a little bit. But we'll do the green line here in a few minutes. But I want this line to be fairly low. If I wanted to bring this blue line down a little bit, I'll show you what that looks like. I'm just going to take a little bit of the blue and the white. Let's see here. If I wanted to bring this down a little bit, I can. Because I want my green, I really want to see as much sky as possible. And I want my green mountains to overlap the blue. So I'm just taking a minute to just bring it down just another like ½ inch. So you can consider that. You might be happy with like how high you might want your mountain to be. That's absolutely your choice. One of these things, one of the perspectives I bring in these classes is that I want you to make your own choices along the way. I'm here to guide you and kind of get you through each step, but I'm always going to empower you to choose like where you want your horizon line to be, how big you want your clouds to be. If you want to bring in alternative colors, you can do that. So I always support that. You making your own decisions and choices. That's what art's all about. It's that piece of individualism. Okay, cool. So I'm going to keep an eye on the clock. I want everybody just to make sure that your sky is filled in and you have some of these white streaks. We can always add in more of this glow. I'm just kind of looking around all my corners and edges to make sure everything's filled in. But we have a lot more work to do. So I'm not going to go too crazy with the detail because we'll get some of our base layers in and then we'll build our clouds with lots of layers as we go here. All right. So I'll give you a minute to play with that. Again, it's not perfect. It doesn't need to be. I'll bring it close. It doesn't like, it's very, I have that starburst because I'm going to put a cloud right on top of it. And that's where you're going to see, if I take my phone, look at this. My phone was a cloud. It looks like there's sun and there's beautifulness kind of glowing behind it. That's what the cloud is going to do. All right. So take a minute to work on that step. All right. And then as you're ready, we're going to put a little bit of green, like a green hills or like a green mountain down at the bottom, just to kind of ground us. Like there's land down there, but the focus of today's class, the composition is clouds. So who can confirm the color green that I sent everyone today? Did I send a phthalo green or did I send the light green? I think I sent phthalo, but you all can let me know via chat or you can unmute yourself.
I didn't get a green.
No green?
No. So can I mix like
Oh,
medium yellow with?
yeah, that's exactly right. So I may not have sent a green because I sent you 2 blues instead. So that makes sense. Thanks for confirming. Yep. So you can make a green with yellow and blue. Exactly.
Okay. Well, which blue would you like? I mean, like, is it phthalo blue or blue lake?
Yeah, you can use the phthalo blue. Absolutely. So
Okay.
you're going to take the yellow that I sent, and everyone has very similar yellows. I'm going to take this and I'm going to put yellow on my plate first, and then a little touch of blue will go a long way. So always yellow first and then touch of blue. So let me unscrew my cap here. And I always like to kind of do like a tiny touch of black too with the green, just to darken it. If you don't want to use the black, you don't have to. So blue and yellow, a little speck of blue will go a long way with the yellow. And I'm going to get like a medium-sized brush, any brush that you want. You could use the big brush too. That would be okay.
Which blue, Megan?
Any blue works. I use the Blue Lake, but you could use phthalo blue. Any color you want to make the green is fine. You can choose. All right, so I'm going to mix this. Woo, this is a vibrant green. That's all right. So maybe if it's vibrant, add a little bit more blue, maybe add a little bit of black. And I'm just going to do a little bit of like a rolling hill down here. It could be a dark rolling hill. It could be a lighter rolling hill. I'll come in with like a smaller brush to kind of make it look a little bit more detail oriented. But we're basically just going to paint this all green down here. So maybe get your base colors in. If you wanted to use a smaller brush to do a more detailed ridge line, I'm going to do that after. But while I have this paint right here, I'm going to just take a minute to mix this. And you could always add a tiny touch of black if you wanted to make it a little bit more sagey or very dark. In the inspiration, it is fairly dark in contrast. So maybe we'll do this base layer, maybe we'll make it darker. It's always good just to start somewhere. Ooh, I mixed more blue and it got a little darker. That's kind of fun. So you could add more blue to it and it becomes like a bluish green. Look at that beautiful color. And I kind of have a two-toned effect that kind of just happened by accident. I call that a happy little mistake, ladies and gents. So that's, for me, I use Blue Lake and I use the yellow. But this is your ground. You can fill this in any way that you want. If you you don't paint a lot, you could paint this a single color. If you are getting more comfortable with painting, you can try using 2 different colors down here. So I always love to encourage you to try new things in these art classes where you're comfortable. Maybe using 2 different color greens down here as you're filling this in. Maybe you make it a little darker in areas. This is experimentation and art at its best. I have like a little bit of a lighter green on top. But this, I'm just getting in all those nooks and crannies on that canvas board. I'll bring it a little closer. You can see our scene is just starting to happen. Imagine that. All right. Take your time with this. So we have a little bit of a ground to get our scene in place. You can do
Meg,
nice. Oh yeah.
Mine looks olive. What should I put to make it more
Add a little bit of yellow.
yellow?
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That will brighten it. And you could try adding a little bit more white too.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Yep. And if you have Blue Lake, you can try adding a little bit of that too. You just have to kind of play with the tones. Absolutely. So I'm going to keep an eye on the clock. I'm going to give everyone 2 solid minutes just to play with this ground area with whatever way you please. I am going to add a little contrast to my ground. I'm going to add just a tiny touch of black to my plate. So you don't have to do this step if you're not ready, but I want you to kind of go at your own speed. I'm always here to offer tips and tricks along the way. I just have a base coat color in right here right now. And maybe I'll grab just a brush like a touch smaller. And I have like a number 2. Oh, we have Melody joining us. Perfect. Don't stick your brush in the wrong cup. I almost just did that. God help me. All right, so I'm gonna take a little bit of this bluish green color. Oh goodness, I need to mix more. That's all right. It's always important just to take your time mixing colors along the way. I encourage you to mix colors in these classes because that's how you'll grow as an artist. You will learn how and when to use colors to your advantage. And we're going to be doing a lot of blending for the cloud part. Like 3 or 4 different colors for the cloud, those blues and purples. It's going to be really pretty. So what I'm doing is I have this bluish green, which is the color of my ground. I'm going to take a tiny little scoop of black, make it a little darker. And this, I'm going to add a little bit of some dark contrast to my mountain, my hill range. And you all have the inspiration. If you need the picture of the inspiration, you can kind of look in the chat window. But I'm going to maybe use this to do some of my ridgeline. Maybe I do some highs and some lows. So you can play with that a little bit. Now this is the fun part. And I'm using a number 2. This is like a flat-headed number 2. It's kind of a shorter bristles. I can come in here and just do a little bit of texturing to kind of create a little bit of hill texture. Now let me change the light here. Bring this a little closer. And while this is wet, I'm going to take water on my brush. And again, I'm going to do the upside down trick to make sure it's not. And then you can blend this in ways. So you can kind of soften. Ooh, there. You can kind of soften this darker color in. But for me, I'm going to still see some of these other areas. So I'm kind of being playful of making this a little shaded. So I'm basically putting down some of this darker color, but then I'm getting a little water on my brush. I'm basically creating shadows. I'll bring it a little closer so you can see it. I'm moving around this darker paint with water on my brush, just to create some fun, darker shadows in this green space. And I'll rinse and repeat and do this again. See how it's creating just a little bit of shadedness on this green mountain. I'll do it again for a demonstration. I'm just kind of creating a little bit of a line down. You can put a couple of dashes here and there. I'm going to use water to move this around. Clean up my brush a little bit. Do the water trick. Is it dripping? No. And you can move this around just a little bit. And it's just creating a little bit of shaded. If you don't like this, you do not have to do it. I'm experimenting at its best. And it's really just an opportunity to learn and watch the paint pigment move around to create a shaded texture on your mountains in different ways. This technique of experimentation is what all artists do, whether they're adding a light color to something, whether they're adding depth. And you can see the difference. Created some natural depth versus just plain and bright. If you like it plain and bright, you do not have to do this, but I'm just here to offer you different tips and tricks and suggestions. So you can do either or. All right. And I'm just doing a little water with a little bit of this grayish blue-green color. Don't forget to breathe. Don't forget to smile. We will go around the room and check in with one another. But again, a big thanks to our friends at AARP Vermont for having us. We're so glad to be here. And we'll be posting the May classes soon if they haven't been posted yet. We'll be painting birds in a nest for May, but it's not like a natural scene. It's kind of like a light-spirited scene. So I'm really excited about it. We're going to have some beautiful complementary colors. So we'll talk about complementary colors, a little color theory in the next class as well, which would be really fun. All right. And Erin, let us know if those classes have been posted yet, and if they haven't, when they might be posted, because the ladies and gents on these calls are very competitive trying to get into the right class.
They are posted.
They are posted. Awesome.
Yeah, and there's the option for the, bring your own painting materials or getting them mailed. So if
Perfect.
you have a stockpile of materials, we appreciate you, checking the bring your own, so then others who might not can get the materials mailed to them.
Love it. Perfect. All right.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I might not be looking at the right place for postings then, because I go to, like I do a Google search and get Vermont events, AARP Vermont events, and I cannot find it there. Where should I be looking?
I
So
looked
you
today
go to the
myself and
link-
couldn't find it.
I just looked right now and it's not there.
Well, so I guess the thing is, it only posts about a month out, and within the event screen, there's a scroll bar. So if you land on the page, you actually have to go to a page within the page to scroll down.
Yeah,
to
I went all
find
the way
events
down.
further.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the last date you see?
I'll tell you
Since you're
'cause I'm
there.
on it right now.
April 28th, the last thing
Okay,
I
so
see, the
that-
guide to digitizing old photos.
I'm going there now as well. Let's
Yeah,
see.
we can take a peek. Let's do it.
When
Well,
I go there, yes, I only see until the 28th as well. So basically what that means is there's only a certain number of events that can fit within that slider section. So they are live and active. And I guess a little tip trick is you can still search for them, even if they're not showing up on that page. So if you were to search like painting, you would be able to probably find them.
Ooh, Erin, the trick of the century there.
Yeah,
Um,
right. Oh,
yeah.
someone says they see them. Really, I don't see through April either. And there are many different event pages. That's another thing that I'm still learning about AARP. There's a lot of different ways to get to the same kind of stuff. So what I shared is Vermont's specific event page, but there are many other kind of ways to get to events hosted by AARP.
Perfect. And for anyone that's searching, I can tell you what the dates are for May. It's May 18th, which is a Thursday, and it's May 21st. So to Erin's point, they're probably not showing because that events page it's full basically through, the 28th that you're seeing now. But if you wanted to search May 18th or paint class, maybe you could search for dates. You could try that. But maybe that's a way to register more quickly. Erin, thank you so much for taking a look. Appreciate that.
Megan, I know when you go on the calendar on the side, if you know which date you may be, you can click on that date and it comes right up.
Ooh, perfect. So the calendar trick is a good
Megan,
one.
are you teaching both of them or only one?
Yep, I should be teaching both classes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I
Mike-
had a conflict being out of town on Thursday, so Miss Azadeh was teaching for Thursday, but I'll be teaching both classes in May.
So how do you find this class that I've been looking for every day and haven't found yet?
Yeah, so it hasn't,
Actually-
it's not on the live events page yet. I think if you search through the calendar, May 18th or May 21st.
I
Yep,
put
I just put
painting
two
in the
links.
search bar and it came up and I
Yep,
just
you
put
can-
the link.
Yep, I put both of them as well, right above yours. Thanks, Meg. Yeah, so they're right in there. Just do a little searching for painting or click the link within the chat. There's two options there. And
Amazing.
again,
Somebody give us the link in the chat, please.
It is, I
we-
think it was just put in there. Let's just double check. Yep, so there's the birds in the nest. There's the 518 class. Thank you, Meg, so much for doing that, and Erin. So the 518 class is on Thursday and the 21st is a Sunday class, and I will be teaching both. Thank you, team effort there, you guys. Appreciate that.
Megan, do you know already the dates for June and July?
Let's see here. We actually have, Erin, we have some changes for June and July, don't we?
yes, sorry, clicking around. Yes, I was pulling it up right now. So yeah, we are transitioning since, like I said, we are starting to do some more in-person events. We've had to kind of juggle our offerings a little bit and think a little more strategically with our budget. So we are going to do the May ones, but then after that, we're not doing them until the fall.
Oh.
So we're going through the spring and then back in October, November, and December.
Yep. But we do have a special offer coming out. Erin, would you like to talk about that? Or I was going to mention it, but it came up so quickly here.
Yeah, totally. Well, let me pull it up so I say it correctly though, unless you know it more clearly, the percentage and the. You
Yeah.
go, or I'll look it up.
No, it's all good. You can pull it up, but I'll give an overview. So I am still going to be offering classes in June, July, August, etc. So I have started offering 3 public classes every month outside of these AARP events. And I'm partnering with AARP Vermont to offer you a discount. The pricing is very affordable. It's like $15 a class, or only $8 a class if you're a member. And I'm offering a 10 or 15% discount on top of that. AARP Vermont was gracious enough to include it in their upcoming mailer. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you're welcome to drop your email in the chat window. But Erin and I, we were going to circulate more information in the May classes. So May, there'll be 2 classes with AARP. And Erin's posting some more details in the chat window, but more details to come there. But there will be plenty of classes available for you all summer and through the early fall. So don't worry about that. It's just going to be a little bit different.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll do our best to send details, but also just check our website. And then those of you who live in Vermont in particular, you'll receive a summer discount flyer soon, and that will contain this information. And then there'll also be some emails that go out.
Exactly. So you're all in good hands. I'm not stopping teaching classes. You just have to sign up a little bit different. So all is well there. Cool. Well, really good questions. I'm glad it came up. We'll fill in some more blanks for summer classes in the upcoming week. So don't worry there. We're still going to be doing this in a different form. So many of you will kind of switch back to the painting because I want to keep us moving here. We have these brilliant clouds to paint.
Megan, quick question. With your
Sure.
classes, you're virtual in the summer. Are you going to be sending out all the supplies, or do we have to get everything?
Yes. So supplies are not included for the summer months. However, I do have paint kits, affordable paint kits available if you need supplies. So if you need just paints, or if you need a canvas board, I'll have all those things available for you, and I'm happy to send them to you directly.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And more details to come with the promo codes, discount links, all of that. But the best thing you can do is, if you want some early insider info, drop your email in the chat window and I'll follow up with you after today's class, just so you have it earlier. Okay, cool. So everybody should have some type of green mountains landscape to ground our area. And now we're going to jump in and have some fun with these clouds. So this is where you all need to shake off your nerves, get them all out. And we're going to jump in with some of these cloud shapes. Now, I want you all to think a little abstract, okay? We're going to look at these clouds and look at how beautiful they are. Let's talk about what some of the accents or what attributes might stand out for you. So what are some of the first things that you notice about these clouds? So they're big, right? Composition wise, they're big. I see, some long skinny clouds down here on the bottom, kind of like it's a little fluffy, but it has some, a little bit of rigid angle. So we're going to have a long kind of skinny cloud down here. And there's one bigger cloud up here. Now you can see these aren't like cartoon, like rounded. They kind of have some different edging. So we're going to practice that. And there's brightness kind of around the edges. So you can see these clouds have some different forms. You can see how there's white pieces of the light coming through. So we're going to build in space to hold in those white pieces for the sun to come through. So we're not going to do just one big blue cloud. That would look like not very good. We're going to do different pieces of clouds to let that light come through. And we're going to go in and bring that light in after, but we're kind of holding space for that. Okay, so we're going to have fun with this. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to grab our Failio. And there's going to be 2 or 3, maybe even 4 colors to this cloud. This big cloud, that's many little clouds. So I'm going to have you take your Failio blue. And I want you to make sure you have enough room on your plate to kind of play with different colors. So if you need to grab an extra plate, maybe from your kitchen, maybe you got a little crazy, maybe you don't have enough space on your current one, take a minute just to go grab another plate if you need it. So I'm going to do a small dot of blue in 3 areas. We're going to be blending different tones. Okay. So 1, 2, and 3, just If you don't have the wells, it's okay. Just kind of keep them separate. All right, let me see here. So now we're gonna grab our red. And who can confirm what red that I sent you? Did I send you brilliant red or did I send you crimson?
Crimson.
Crimson, perfect. So grab your crimson. Squeeze your paint to the bottom. All right, so we're gonna make a purple tone. Ooh, who doesn't love purple? Purple's so inspiring. We're gonna do a little dot of red in one of these containers, okay? There's that. And we're going to grab a brush. Let's see. If I sent you, what brush is this? Grab like a number 4 or a 5.
I'm sorry, which color are we mixing in with the crimson?
Yep, no worries. We're just doing a spot of blue. So we have 3
spot.
spots of blue. Yep. And we're just going to mix blue and this blue and red together.
And it's the darker blue.
Yeah, the darker blue, the Thalio.
Okay, thank you, sorry.
No, it's okay. I don't mind the questions. And I'm just going to grab this. This is like a number 4 or 5 or a 3, whatever one I gave you is fine. And I'm just going to wipe off the droplets. And I'm just going to make a dark purple here. We'll do it together.
Megan, my crimson is dry.
Okay.
And I have those what is it? The brighter.
The bright red. Yep, just use that. Any kind of purple will work for this. No worries. Okay, so we're going to have a crimson. I'm going to put a tiny dot of white in the crimson, just to, in the purple that we're mixing. Just like a tiny, tiny dot, just to lighten it a touch. So I'm just gonna, I put a little dot of white in this dark. This dark is actually the purple. This is from mixing. This is crimson. This is the red and blue basically mixed together. And you can see it's turning into a lighter purple now. I just added a tiny touch of red. So this purple is going to be perfect. Very nice. So we have that purple. Take a minute just to mix that. Again, I added a tiny touch of white to it. And we're just going to let it sit there. Now we have this Thalio blue. Mix this Thalio blue, the next one, just mix this around and kind of get it warmed up and see what this color looks like to you. For me, it's very dark for these clouds. So see that? It's a little too like royal blue. I'm going to dim this down a little bit. I'm going to grab a tiny spot of white. And I'm going to make it a little bit softer. By adding white to blue, it's called you're tinting. The word tint is used to make a hue or a color lighter. See that? So we're kind of pre-mixing some colors, which is going to be an important part of today's inspiration. Okay. And then this one over here, we're going to make even to a lighter, like adding a little bit more white. So we're going to have a lighter blue, a medium blue, and a purple. Now don't use all your white. I know it might be tempting. And I'm just using a little bit at a time. And if you have any extra white in the house, you're welcome to grab it. So those are the 3 colors. This third blue, it needs to be darker than the background. Very important. We don't want this to be a light blue like the background. We want it to be darker. And you can see if I have my background color up here. This is the dried area for my background color. This could be a touch darker. So I could add a little bit more blue if I wanted to, but it's pretty close. So I want you to mix each of these colors. Basically, we're having like a medium tone blue, this darker blue, and a purple. And the purple we can always lighten more if we need to. So take a minute. I like to spin my brush on the plate. If it gets too thick with paint, you can spin it on your plate like that. This makes it a little bit more better to control. Perfect. And the color that we're going to start with is this third blue, and we're going to use this to outline our cloud shapes. Now, I want you to I want you to think a little liberal with our cloud shaping, and then we'll fill it in. So don't worry too much. So I want you to get a little loosey-goosey here. This is where I want you to take this not too seriously. Okay, I know it's gonna be hard, but we're gonna have fun with this part. Okay, so if I look at the inspiration, the cloud is big. And again, a big part of the cloud, I want it to be over on this side. So what I'm going to have you do is I want you to leave space along the top so I can still see the sky. Don't put your cloud way up here at the top. Kind of start it in this area. And I want you to try this new technique. Hold your brush further back. Some of you might hold it like a pencil, like this. Just give it a shot. Try holding your brush back a little bit. It kind of lets your things flow a little bit more naturally. So again, make sure you have space above. And you're just going to be a little natural with your cloud shape. See how it's a little more free flowing? Maybe the cloud's going to go right off the page over here. This is not a cloud, this is a line. I recognize that. See how I'm holding my brush? Maybe the cloud's a little higher. And it's going to come down a little bit.
Megan, what color are you using? Which one?
This is the third blue. This is this one right here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So I'm kind of creating this big cloud. I still can see my shining, my brightness. It's going to come down a little bit, and maybe it will kind of come under. Maybe it will come under. Don't worry, we're doing this all very intentionally here. Okay. So this kind of looks like a very awkward shape it's supposed to. And then I'm gonna leave a space down here. I'm gonna add another cloud, long and skinny underneath it. These are just lines, so just long, kind of skinny cloud. Maybe it will kind of connect up with it. This is not the end all be all, I promise. Trust the process. And then maybe there'll be like another little floating cloud over here. And you can refine the edges, so don't worry too much. So I kind of have a big cloud over here. I'm holding the brush a little bit further back. This is going to be like a white space in here. That's why I kind of left this little puzzle piece. Again, you do not have to do the same thing I am, but you can just be open-minded to it. Kind of just connected these. We're just doing lines right now, just to kind of get these cloud-like shapes in place. And then we're going to do a secondary cloud from up top here. So this will be really fun. So behind this big cloud, I want you to find the kind of a top area. And when it starts to go down, if you did this down area, I want you to have fun. They don't need to touch, but add in another cloud in the distance. Ooh, baby. Bringing a scene together here. See that? You've created a layer. You can do that. I know you can. You can see our scene is starting to come about. And this layer of our second cloud in the distance can kind of come down and get a little wavy, right? I'm holding my brush way back. And it can go right off the right side of the page. So there's something happening here. I can see it. I can feel it. Maybe I'll put another little one down here. Maybe it'll connect up into this one. See, we're creating these clouds. The bottom of my clouds they're not fairly straight, but you can see they're really kind of holding. They're more fluffy. They're more, there's a little more movement on the top. And these layers in here, we're going to fill this in our own way. But I want you to look at the overall shape and the overall object. So maybe I'll do a couple more lines over here. They don't need to be touching. They don't need to be refined and perfect at this stage, I promise. My lines are so rough. They are not all filled in. Don't worry about that. I want you to focus on the overall composition of the cloud's placements. And we're going to fill this in our own way. All right. Now, again, I'm going to hold some of the blue space. I want to see down here. I want to see the shining come through. So I'm going to be really intentional. I'm going to say, Megan, I want to see this blue line. I want to see this blue background. I'm going to put another cloud in, but I want to do a long, skinny cloud. See, I'm holding this blue space in my finger. I'm not going to put a cloud there, but I'm going to put a cloud below it. Maybe it'll come up a little bit. And I'm just going to leave a little bit of a gap in between these cloud layers. And I'm going to do that long, skinny cloud on the bottom here. Remember, we talked about that long, skinny cloud. And it can be shorter and smaller some parts. It can be a little bit bigger in others. But this is going to be a long, skinny cloud in this area. And we'll fill this in together. We'll fill it in, don't worry. This is a long, skinny cloud all right here. Love it. Okay. So what you can do is if you start losing kind of where some of these clouds are, we can start filling in some of them. So one may be this back cloud right here. With the same blue paint, I can start filling it in. So your lines may not be perfect down here. Don't worry about that. Start filling in with the blue paint that we used for these outlines. And if these lines are not perfect for you yet, don't worry. They're all about staging. I want you to leave a little bit of a gap so your cloud isn't touching this cloud. I want you to leave a little bit of a light blue gap. See how I left a little bit of a blue gap right there? That's going to help the light come in.
Megan, a quick question. So that's the lightest color what you mixed?
That's right. Exactly
Okay.
right. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I'm just going to follow this ridge line and try not to paint all the way down to the next line. Try to hold that gap. See this gap? That's going to be a big game changer for today's class. Try to hold that gap. See how I held that? Oh, there's somebody joining. Hold that gap in between the cloud layers. So I did that back cloud first, just for fun. And maybe I'll go at the top of this cloud. We're using this light blue, very intentional, the lightest blue intentionally. So I'm doing it at the top of these two clouds. Going right along this, and you can always change your cloud shape if you want to. That's no big deal. Maybe I'll dip my brush in a little bit of water. Ooh, this is where the magic's gonna happen. Ooh-wee. You can always change brushes if you want to. I'm gonna play with this small brush. But look at this. I'm gonna start to fill in this cloud. Try a little water on your brush. Ladies and gents, this is where you're gonna surprise yourself. This is where the magic is gonna happen. Try to hold the lines, the white space in between. I'm gonna dip my brush in a little bit of water, and I'm gonna bring the paint pigment down. So fun. Since we have the blue underneath, there's already a background color there, which is nice. So if you take a little bit of water and you move it around, you start to kind of get, see that there's something happening here. Imagine that. Maybe you get a little bit more paint. You bring in a little bit more paint. This is where I want you all to experiment. Just on this big top cloud, use a little bit of water. If you want to bring in a little bit of your purple, ooh, maybe over here. I'm going to put a little bit more white in my purple. Just a little bit. I want it to be a little lighter. In the inspiration, the purple is, it's on the underside of the clouds, but I'm going to put, there's a little bit over on the left side. I love this look, so I'm just going to add a little purple, but there's purple on the underside of the cloud. So if you want to put, and we're just going to do this big cloud first. We did a little bit of blue on this back cloud, but we're just going to play with the first cloud, and then we'll work our way down. You can bring some of the purple up. You can use some of this other blue. I want you to play and be experimental of bringing in all three of these colors, but I want you to use the lighter blue on top, bringing a little water in. You can be playful with bringing in a little purple or a little bit of the darker blue on just the bottom of this cloud. I want you to play with just this first cloud. And I want you to play with blending your water up and in. We do one cloud at a time. But this is the beautiful experimentation of today's class, is playing with colors. So this is a little bit of the darker blue, maybe a little bit of the darker blue. We'll go, again, darker colors are going to go on the underside of the clouds. A little paint will go a long way. And using your brush and a little bit of water to blend that color up. So move that paint pigment with a little pressure and blend it upwards. Ooh, this purple is so fun. A little bit of purple over here. Maybe we bring this blue down. Maybe these colors start to blend together. Some of you might be inspired to like use your finger to like blend these colors. Oh my gosh, so much opportunities. But just blend them. If it gets mucky, then just move on from that area and just move to a different area of the cloud. But we're just working on one cloud right now. And just be playful here. If you feel like there's too much paint, then clean off your brush and move the paint around that you have. So for me, to have lighter spots on these clouds, you can just use water to move the paint in and around it. You can bring the blue down into the purple. Bring this a little closer so you can see it. You can see the underside of the cloud. This is the technique we're going to do for each of these clouds. The clouds further down are actually going to be a little darker. But we're using the lighter blue on the tops of the clouds. We're using the darker blue and the purple on the undersides. If you wanted to do different colors, you're not going to hurt my feelings. You can use anything you want, but this is just a technique that I'm sharing today. We'll come in and make these lines nice and clear, clean and clear, so don't worry too much. You can see on this back cloud, I just took a little bit of the blue and kind of did a couple of like darker blue lines on the bottom side of this cloud in the distance. And I used a little bit of water. See how you can see the underside of that cloud? Isn't that beautiful? So this cloud looks a little scratchy. It's okay. It's okay to like move on from one area and come back to it. Clouds, again, you have a little patience. The top sides of clouds are typically lighter. The undersides can be darker. It all depends on what the light source is. The light source is going to come behind these clouds today. So anywhere there's gaps in between these clouds, we're actually going to go in with a light yellow or a white to really brighten that. So that's why we're just focusing on the clouds right now. So I'm just going to let these clouds dry and I'm going to work my way down. So you can always come back and refine them. It's kind of good to get a process going and rinse and repeat. But the clouds are going to get a little darker as you come down. So I'm finding another cloud down here. I'm going to do the bottom, this darker blue first, because these are kind of stormy. They're a little stormy. So your darker blue, which is the second color that we mixed. And I'm going to outline the bottom. And watch this, while this is wet, I'm going to clean my brush and just have a little bit of water on it. I'm going to take this dark blue, look at this, and I'm going to slowly blend this dark blue up to about halfway. Look at this. So beautiful. Sorry, my lighting is kind of off. There you go. So a little paint will go a long way. I could probably use half the paint that I did. A little paint will go a long way. See that? That's the underside of the cloud. It kind of went up about halfway. And I want you to try leaving, again, a little gap, if you can, in between these clouds. You don't need a lot of paint. I'm just now using water. Look at that, to fill it in. If you want them to be touching, you can, because the colors, so I'll have these two touch, but you can still see that it will create a second layer. See that? I brought that third blue. I took the darker blue, I did a little bit of a line, and I used water to work my way up. You don't need a lot of paint. And you can see how with these two colors next to each other, you can see the difference. You can see the top of the cloud and the bottom of the cloud, just like up here. So I'm just rinsing and repeating. So really, it's kind of like painting trees, just getting into a groove, finding something that works for you. I am going to keep this gap over here. See the blue sky that's popping through? I'm not going to touch that. I want the blue sky to be popping through over there. This is a very intentional blue sky coming through. We're going to also have intentional blue sky come through in a couple of other areas over here. But otherwise, I want you to be playful with this color. You can bring in this purple wherever you want, or you could just play with these two blues. But I'm just using a little water to kind of blend these two colors together. Water is going to be your best friend here. If you wanted to make like a combination blue of this blue and this one on your plate, that's another way of blending. But the water is really helpful. I'm taking the darker color and working my way up towards the top of the cloud to help with the blending. And you can see that there. And you can do long, smooth brush strokes. You can always do another layer of paint on top. Just kind of, this is your painting, so kind of work your way around. Like, what do I want this to be right here? I don't know, maybe this will be another cloud. So do the blue, the lighter blue on the top. And then do a little bit of just a little bit of the darker blue on the bottom and just see what happens. Be open-minded to our scene here. And we'll bring more light into it after. So if you feel like it's really dark right now, don't worry. In my classes, I like to say, trust the process. We will get to a place where there'll be more light coming in. You can bring in these darker, lighter shades wherever you want. This is where you can be a little playful. You can see I left a little bit of that lighter gap in between some of these. You can make the choices of where you want to do that and not. But the name of the game is just doing this lighter blue on the top side. And if you wanted to use darker colors as you work down, you can totally do that. Like I'll bring in some more purple in a minute, but a little bit of the dark blue will go a long way. So dark blue will go here. I'm going to get a little bit of water on my brush. Work this medium blue up. I'm grounding the underside. And I want you just to look at your own lines and your own form. Just see what happens. If you don't like something, no, you can always paint over it. Like, Megan, this is way too dark. I don't know what happened. Don't worry. We can always lighten it up. Just let whatever you're doing dry. And I'm going to blend this. Again, a little water on my brush. You can gently blend this up. And if it's too much paint, you can use your finger, ladies and gents, to kind of swipe some of it off. That's why we have a paper towel nearby. If you grabbed a paper towel. But play with the lighter on top. You can leave in as many gaps as you wish. You can fill them in. You can use your eye for that. Like, this gap does not make sense here. I leaned back in my chair and I reflected on that. This looks a little bit more natural now. And maybe you don't need all these gaps, but we're going to keep some of them. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. But you can see how the lightness and the darkness will ground each of the cloud objects. Let's see here. And I'm going to hold more light down here. So I want a big part of the blue sky to stand out. So this blue area here, I'm going to have that be all blue sky because I'm actually going to turn that to be a yellow. So this is going to be the top side of my cloud right here. This is my long skinny cloud right here on the bottom. Oops, and I just put a dot. It's okay. I'm going to make the cloud come down a little bit more. There we go. That was a happy little accident. Okay, so this is the top of the cloud. I'm leaving a big gap here. I want the sky to come through over here. So you can be intentional of that white space per se you hold. Where? Maybe this one. This is where you can kind of lean back in your chair and make choices along the way of where you want the sun to come through. That's really where we're at, is what spaces do I want to hold in my sky for the sun to come through? Because anywhere that we're holding space for the sky to come through, we're going to make it really beautiful, a yellow color. So let's see, I'm doing the top side of this cloud, and you can kind of bop around where you need to. Everybody's art's going to be a little different. But it's always important to ground the underside of this cloud with the darker color. Just for today's light source. And I'm going to again get a little water on my brush and work that in. And you can have a nice smooth cloud bottom. We'll do a check-in, I promise, here in a little bit. Not yet, so don't worry. But in these classes, we always like to see how each other are doing. It might be scary to show your work. Some of you might feel embarrassed, but I have to tell you, we get inspired from showing one another. So I thank everyone for participating. If you're comfortable. Ooh, I'm going to add in a little more purple. Maybe I'll tuck a little purple in here. Ooh, baby, with a little purple, a little bit of water towards the underside of the cloud. So pretty. This is like a grayish purple. You can add a little bit. I kind of went heavy right here, but I like the purple. So I'm going to kind of be a little carefree. So there's no wrong in this part. We just all take our time. Top side of the clouds are a little lighter. Bottom side of the clouds are a little darker. And if your paint is starting to run out, put a couple water droplets on your plate. Like my middle tone blue is kind of running out. Put a couple water droplets in that well or in that spot. Mix it around a little bit. That will give you lots of paint. See that? That's the great thing about the paint that I send, is because it's a great quality.
Megan, how did you get that periwinkle blue?
This middle one?
No, the
This
left. Yeah, that one.
It was Blue Lake and white paint.
Blue Lake. Oh, but mine didn't come out like that.
Maybe you try, and that's the base color. So that periwinkle is the top color for my clouds.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
Love it. Thanks.
You're welcome. So again, you can always add a little bit more water to your color if you need to stretch it. I know it's so funny. People are like, I ran out of the color. Am I going to be able to mix that color again? Yes, I'll help you get there, but using a little bit of water and taking the dark color and blending it up and in. You could always take the lighter color and blend it down. There's so many ways to paint. Do whatever you feel most comfortable with, but those are just a few blending techniques. But you can see I have a nice white space over here. The sky is shining through here, and the sky is shining through here. Some of you, I'm going to make an assumption. Some of you may not have a ton of like white spaces or sky popping through. If you need to build in like that light blue again, you can do that with our light yellow. So a little bit of the inspiration. If you look at the picture, it has some beautiful light yellow and oranges popping through. We're going to add that in after. So if you need to come in and hold some of that space, we can do that together after. So no worries. But I just want you to find the bottom of each cloud, or each cloud segment, and work on adding a little bit of the lighter blue on the top and the darker blue on the bottom, and using water or a combination, kind of custom blended color to kind of merge those two. So you can do whatever you feel right there. We just want to fill our clouds in. And because we did a light blue sky, it's really helping us, right? It doesn't really require us filling in our clouds all the way. Like we could just do just enough. And you can put a little pressure. You can watch the paint pigment move. It's pretty powerful, actually. Push down. These brushes can take it, I promise. And let's see, I'm going to lean back. Where do I want a white space to be? Maybe I'll have a white space be right in here. And if I don't like that, I can always paint it. I can always cover it up. It's no big deal. But again, if you're running out of a paint, grab a couple dollops of white or of water and mix it around. So I was running out of that periwinkle blue. And I'm taking 3-4 dollops of water and I'm mixing it with the paint pigment that was left. And look at that. Plenty of paint. So that pigment's incredibly powerful. All right. So use your own eye. I want you to fill in your clouds with just these 2 tones. If you want to be playful with your purple, ladies and gents, I'm sure Douglas is going crazy with all his blending. Knowing Douglas, he's pretty adventurous in that regard. So Douglas, there's so many folks on. All right, I'm going to bring in a little purple over here. Ooh, baby. I love this purple. Makes it a little stormy. It's kind of fun. All right. And using water with these pigments are really just allowing me to move them around, bring them into different areas, and then let it dry. And if you lean back in your chair, reflect on how it looks. Things always look better on Zoom. You may think my painting looks really great over Zoom, but it doesn't look incredibly perfect up close. I can tell you that. But you can have fun. Like, look at this dark contrast. Isn't that beautiful under that cloud? Any of you, I'm sure you're recreating that right now. So fun. Hope you're a little more open-minded to these clouds. We don't paint clouds like this often in these classes, and I applaud you all being up for the adventure today. All right. You can add just a line if you want to keep it easy and you just don't want to do any more blending. No judgment zone. You can literally just do a line on the underside of a cloud. We do that a lot in these classes where we don't have time always to blend up and in. Today's class, I wanted us to practice blending up and in because you can bring that into future classes. It's a good opportunity to practice the blending. But if you feel like being a little lazy, you can just do a darker line on the underside of any cloud. Look at that. And it will bring that cloud out because you have light blue and you have the darker blue. So anywhere you just want to find just to do a darker blue underline, which is that medium color we created, you could easily bring in just that. And then you can even blend it in from there. So go about this any way that you wish. Maybe there's layers. I have some hidden spots. I am going to add a little bit of this darker color underneath here. You can see the scenes really coming to life. I would love to see how everyone's doing. What we're going to do, I'm going to give everyone a solid 5 minutes. You don't need to be done because it's not possible. We're going to do a bit more work. But in 5 minutes, we're going to have our first flip and reveal where we're going to show each other our work. Again, it's not required to do that, but I always encourage folks to show off your work, be proud, but play with your colors. I'm going to bring in some more purples. So if anybody wants like a more vibrant purple, we'll get a little crazy here for a Sunday. I'm going to take my brilliant red. There's kind of a pinky purple. Ooh, brace yourself in some of these clouds. I'm going to take my red. And this brush I'm using it's a fairly short brush. Some of you may have this, some of you may not. It's a fairly small brush. So for me, I've been really intentional of where I put paint and where I don't. So this smaller brush is giving me a little more control. I'm taking a little bit of my purple. I'm going to mix it with the red. In these classes, I love being the guinea pig, doing something outside the box, whether it makes you cringe or you get excited by it. I always love offering different options. I'm going to add a little tiny bit of white. We do need, if anybody's limited on white, I think everybody uses different amounts of paint all the time. But save some white for the end. We're going to do yellow and white as an accent. I'm trying to make a purpley, that's a little bit better, purpley red color. as an accent. It's kind of just playing with it so you find the right tone. The inspiration, it's a little more purpley. So let me see if I can make it a little more purple again. There we go. So again, art creating is so about finding the colors that work for you. Look how beautiful this is. This might lighten up some areas, but I like the color right there. Basically added a little red to my purple, and I lightened it up just a little bit. So you can find that. And I'm just going to put a little bit of this in some areas. So maybe over here on the side of this cloud, maybe tucked in. Maybe on the underside. This is just a little bit lighter of a purple. Maybe I'll just use my water cup. And I'm just going to use my finger to kind of smudge it in areas. If you don't like the smudging, you don't have to do that. I just did it with my finger a little bit. If it's too much, you can kind of wipe it off. For me, I'm just being a little adventurous, a little crazy. And it's okay. I did it at the top a little bit. I was just kind of adding a little bit of this warming color. It's okay. I put some down here. I'm just going to bring a little bit of water in. And it looks very similar to the other one, but in person I can see it better.
Megan, what two colors did you mix for that?
I added
Crimson?
red. Yeah, it was,
Uh-huh.
well, I actually used the brilliant red, but if you have, oh yeah, I added crimson, sorry, crimson and a little bit of white to the purple.
Oh, to the purple.
Yeah, I made the purple a little bit more red. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was going a little crazy. Yeah, so I'm bringing a little more purple basically into the picture.
It's pretty.
It's just different. It
Oh,
looks,
I love it.
yeah, it still matches visually, but it just warms it up a little bit. So I can use my finger. Woo, look at that. I just smudged. You see that color? It just happened.
Wow.
It happened, ladies and gents. Art happens sometimes. The nice thing is if you don't like something, look, I'm going to put a little bit of water on it with a paper towel. I can easily wipe it off. So I'm going to show you. If you do something you don't like, you could easily, like while it's still wet, you can kind of wipe it off a little bit. See how I just tamed that down with a little bit of water, the corner of my paper towel.
Wow.
If it's dripping, like you can just play with that a little bit. So it's just a different color to bring in. But for me, by bringing in that color, I'm doing it in a few different areas so it matches, right? I don't want you just to bring in purple on one cloud. I want you to bring purple in different areas so it all matches visually. That composition ties together. And you can see I have those white spots kind of coming through. That's the light that we're going to bring in and hold. All right. So be playful for a few minutes here. I'm going to keep an eye on the clock to hold us accountable. Erin, how is this going for you? I know this is your first class with us. This is super unique, but I hope you're enjoying it.
I think I'm doing okay. I've got slightly a blob going, but I'm having fun with it.
Okay, good. I know clouds can be very blob-like, and that's why I like to talk about holding some of these white spaces because it will visually break up the blob. So I think that's a really good point. Clouds can be very, very structured, but if you're intentional of like holding space of the shape and knowing where you can hold light, you can use a small brush to really shape the cloud edges to really hold light in some areas. So it obviously takes practice. We don't do this a lot, but it's certainly a fun challenge for us today. All right, I'm gonna bring a little purple down here with a little water. And it's kind of fun to kind of ground the underside of these clouds. You can use your finger to smudge. Some of you don't like to get your fingers dirty. I understand that. Some of you might be experimental. I'm sure Meg's fingers are really dirty. She's pretty wild and crazy over there with her creativity. All right, I'm just gonna smudge this around. Jean, our friend Jean, her fingers are definitely not dirty. She is a brush lady. I've learned that about Miss Jean. All right. Douglas is also pretty conservative. All right, so there we go. So I'm gonna give you all 2 solid more minutes. This is an opportunity. Make sure you stretch. Maybe you stretch your arms up high. Maybe we take a deep breath. You can stretch your neck from one side to the next. Maybe stand up in your chair. It's really helpful to stand up and reflect on your work from afar whenever you're painting. The nice thing about this inspiration is that clouds can be painted in so many different ways, and you'll see something different as you step up and you step away and you come back. You can continue to add to this painting and modify it. I'm sure many of you will do that. But keeping in mind the lighting source, keeping in mind where the light area of the clouds are and where the shaded areas are, it really will help provide that definition to your cloud shapes. In this instance, there's some big clouds, but they're all kind of connected and kind of creating the scene together. All right, so take a minute to play with that. There are additional steps that we'll do to really make these clouds stand out if they're not already. So that's some of our final steps for today's class, but I'll let you all take a minute to continue to work. And then we'll show our work off to one another. And then we'll slowly transition to some of the remaining steps. All right, don't forget to enjoy your tea or your water. And don't forget to drop your email if you'd like some upcoming information for, or if you have questions, happy to answer questions. Mainly it's questions. I'm not going to send a formal email out, but we'll be sure to answer any questions you have. All right, so accountability time. I'm going to turn off the pin and I'm going to click the view gallery in the top right-hand corner. There's Miss Lydia. Sue is in the zone. All right. There's Terry. Terry's got her glasses on. She's really focused today. All right. So I'm going to have everybody flip your paintings around. And this is where we're just going to all go in awe. And I am like, so beautiful. Oh my gosh. There's Miss Melody. I know you joined late. So glad you're here. Oh, there's Douglas, Miss Claudia's. Look at the movement in these clouds. Wow, Terry, nice job. Beautiful. I love it. Bridget added in some yellow. Kathy, you have quite the scene there. I love those moody clouds, Kathy. Those are so cool. All right, there's Sue. Sue, wonderful job with your contrast. Sue's iPad, really cool. There's Miss Linda's. Linda, look at that shine coming through. I see it already. Melinda, what do y'all think? I think you're doing quite well so far, right? Beautiful.
I'm impressed.
I know. Clouds are very hard. There's Barbara's and Corinne's. Lydia, nice job. Oh, Sonia, look at those colors. Sonia, you did a beautiful job with your shading. Sally did too. And Crystal, your cloud is so like voluptuous. The shapes are so beautiful. You have beautiful shading underneath. Nice job. I'm impressed. I'm really impressed. I mean, you all are very talented, but you did a really great job. Cool. All right. Well, thank you all for being courageous and showing off your clouds. You tell me, do you all want like another 2 or 3 minutes to spend on these clouds? Or are you ready? Give me a thumbs up. If you want more time, give me a thumbs up. If you're good to go, give me like the, okay, Meg, I'm good to go. Okay. So we're getting half and half. Okay. I think some people are like, I might need a break from the clouds. Or I'm like, I need another minute or two. Thank you all for sharing your work. Okay, so we're at 4:30, well, Eastern time. So we typically have about less than 30 minutes less. I try to keep these classes within 2 hours just to be mindful of everyone's schedules. So we're doing good on time. If folks need a couple more minutes to play with your clouds, feel free to do that. If you are ready to move on, there are 2 or 3 small remaining steps. So we'll do some of those together and then we can wrap things up. But if you're still kind of working away on your clouds, don't worry, you can easily catch up to us. Okay, so what we're going to do is I want you to look at how much space you have between the bottom of your clouds and the ground. In the inspiration, I really like this. There's kind of like a lower rain cloud that's like coming in with some beams. It's really beautiful. So what I'm going to have us do is we're going to put in a little bit of a rain cloud. We're going to divide this section, and this is for consideration, but I'm going to divide whatever blue, light blue I have down here. I'm going to divide it into two. The top part is going to be like a blue color. So maybe like the lighter blue up here. Maybe we use a little bit of water, and we're going to do like a blue rain cloud. And then below this rain cloud is going to be a beautiful like orange and yellow sky coming in. So trust me, this is going to be really cool. You can grab any brush you want, maybe like a medium-sized brush. Or you can grab your big brush. If you're in control, you can use your big brush for this part. And I'm going to use this lighter periwinkle blue. Whoops, but I'm going to put some water in it so it's a little bit lighter. And we're going to create a rain cloud, and I want you to hold white space in between. So I'll show you how to do that. So periwinkle blue, and I made it a little watery. I want you to wipe the bristles so that it's not dripping. See, I'm holding it upside down and it's not dripping. That's good. And what I'm going to have you do is this. Maybe you do a straight line first. Rain cloud. I'm dividing this in half, and you can see it's really light in color. I'm going to fill this in. I'm going to leave a white, I'm going to leave a gap in between the top cloud. And you can't even see it, I'm sorry. I left a gap in between this darker cloud. If you need to make this a little darker, you can. See how I made it a little darker? I'm probably going to have to make it a little darker, so give me a minute here. Ah, it's dripping. Look at, there's actual rain coming down. I could embrace this rain cloud and let these drips happen. Makes me a little nervous. I could just let the drips happen. Look at this, like actual rain. I'm probably not though, because I'm just feeling a little more safe tonight. So I'm just wiping it with my paper towel. All right, so I'm gonna make this a little.
Could have made it into a funnel cloud.
I know, I could have made it like a tornado coming down or something. Note to self, this is what happens when there's too much water on your brush. I'm gonna wipe some of it off. It did look like a funnel cloud. Oh my gosh. So I'm making it a little darker. So play with this, right? Like we know what these clouds look like. Oh my gosh, so crazy. I'm using a really light hand, and you can do layers in here if you want. If you wanted to do different kind of horizontal brush strokes, but just leave a gap kind of at the top, like I mentioned, if you can, like in between these clouds. Leave a lighter gap because this is where that beautiful sunlight's going to come through. And this is water. Look at that rain cloud in the distance. It's rolling in. So pretty though. It's kind of like the sun coming out after one of those crazy rainstorms. Just going nice and slow with a really light hand. So I have left a lighter gap in between these clouds. I encourage you to try that. Okay. If you wanted to bring it down a little more, you could. Maybe I'll go down a little bit more. Just a little bit, maybe. You can make some of those choices. Below this rain cloud, we're going to do oranges and yellows. So pretty. Just do some nice, smooth, horizontal brush strokes. This can be all one color. Mine has some streaks in it. It's okay. Okay, so rain cloud. We're going to put beautiful rays coming down on top of that rain cloud. It's going to be stunning, but we need it to dry. Okay. So get your rain cloud in if you haven't done that yet. I'm just going to take a look at my clouds, see if there needs to be any fluffing, any kind of final brush strokes. Again, this is your artwork. You can keep working on this. All right. Here we go. So we're gonna let our rain cloud dry, and now we're gonna have some, I'll call it final fun. All right. So we're gonna mix a yellow sorbet orange color together. So this is some of the last parts we're gonna be using our white. So this is one of the final stages. If there's any additional like light beams that you want to add coming out from the tops of your clouds, for me, I can see mine. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Those are coming. If you want to add any more of those with white, you can do it now. Use water and white together, but we're going to mix a brighter, warmer sun color to really make the shine happen. Super fun. So I'm going to grab yellow, red, and white, and we're just going to start with a dollop of white. So many of you are probably running out, but I'm just doing a small dollop of white right here. I have some yellow already on my plate, which is good. And I actually have a little bit of red, which is perfect. And for this final step, we are going to use a small brush of choice. Get that rain cloud in if you haven't done that yet, which is down here. I have this is a number 2. I guess this will work. Any small brush that I sent you is recommended. And we're going to get that brush wet. Now, what we're going to do first is you're going to bring colors into your white paint. So we want this to be light in color. So by bringing hues and pigments into the white will give us more control over how punchy it is with a color. So I'm going to take a small scoop of the yellow first and mix it with the white. I basically want you to create a really, really, really light yellow color. And it's up to you if you want to make this orangey. I want you to figure out what you want this color to be. We're basically going to be adding some glow around the clouds and extra brightness into the white spots. So I have you can see, actually it's coming through pretty well on Zoom. It's a very light yellow. I like the orangey, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a scoop of this, and I'm only going to make part of this orange a little orangey tinge. So I'm going to keep some of my white and my yellow here, but I took a little scoop of that and I put it here. I'm going to get a little crazy and take a tiny touch of red and add an orange twin tinge to this. Little red's going to go a long way. Ooh-wee. Maybe you need to add a little bit more yellow. Oh, I guess I'm getting a little orange. That works. You can play with this. If you want to make it even more bold, you could always add a little more yellow, a little more red. Yeah, there we go. This is very red, but I guess in person it's okay. All right, so there's my orange. Look at that. Ooh-wee. Oh no. All right, so I have a yellow color and I have an orange color. Take a minute to mix that. And we're gonna use the yellow as our primary for highlighting, but we have the orange if you need it. The light orange. So I'm just gonna I'm gonna spin my brush to kind of get all this orangey color off right here. And I'm gonna go back to the yellow. And I want you to use a brush that's really small, really fine tips. And this next detail is you want to use a very fine pointed brush. So one of the smallest brushes I sent you. And you can spin your brush on your plate to get a nice fine point. Now for some of these final details, I don't want you to use a big swiping brush stroke. I want you to paint the detail around your clouds by looking at the tip of your brush. So what we're going to do is you're going to go around the top side, and maybe you hold your brush a little farther back. We're going to outline the tops of these clouds with the lighter color. Outline the blue cloud. So I'm going on the top first. See that? I want you to do a nice thin line. See how that cloud is glowing? This is where you're gonna
What
press.
color are you using?
I'm using yellow and white.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's why we held these white gaps, so you wouldn't lose shape of these clouds. I'm following this down and in. You can always, you can make this look kind of as abstract as you wish, so it doesn't have to be a nice smooth brush stroke. Mine's fairly smooth because I'm giving you an example, but you're going to outline the tops of each of these clouds. Well, you'll get where we're going here. In the picture, there's a little bit more like natural, like you can kind of do some dashes and dabs if you want it to look like a little less smooth around the edging. I think you all have done awesome. So you can play with how crisp or uncrisp you want these edges to be, basically. But look at the bristles of your brush, and that's where you can play with how thick or how thin this is. So you're only going to do this highlighting on the top sides of the clouds. The darker sides of the clouds, where it's darker on the other side, we're going to start on the top sides of these clouds only. So as you work your way down, find those gaps, and we're adding this brightness in. And this is where you're creating that new glow. And it's coming out. Now this is all beautiful glow over here. So I am going to paint in a lot of this area over here, this beautiful glow. Maybe I use a little water on my brush. This is spectacular. So this color is highlighting. There we go. Take your time with this stuff. It's really fun. Think thin lines. Change brushes if you need to. You could mix more of this, add a couple dollops of water maybe to this yellow. Like that, to stretch it, maybe wipe off some of the extra paint. You can tuck this brightness in wherever you wish. So for me, there's some nooks and crannies in here. There's going to be a little bit of brightness popping through. If you don't like the brightness that you've left places, just paint blue right over it. It does not matter. But there's some brightness in here, and you can fill in all these gaps with brightness if you want. It's totally up to you. If you're painting, if you want to add some extra glow around the tops of these mountains, clouds, you can add a little bit of extra glow with a little water. You can kind of blend it up. This is you experimenting and playing. I used my finger. That actually came out pretty cool. I used my finger, a little water on my brush, a little bit of this paint, a little bit of water on top. And then I used my finger to kind of smudge it upwards. And it kind of gave it a little bit of extra glow in this area, like on the top of the cloud into the sky. You can create extra glow if you wish. Water, and use your finger to smudge it in. But you can start to see some of the yellow tones come through, which is really fun. But lean back in your chair, check out where you might need this and where you may not. Some of these little nooks and crannies, I'm just going for it, All right. And then we'll do the really cool streak sunlight coming down on top of our rain cloud. So that's something we'll do together after, but I want everyone to take a minute and just play with this lighter layering in between. You have that orange. Ooh, and we're going to put a little bit of the orange down here as well. Below the rain cloud, I have orange on top of the mountain line. So that's another thing you can kind of play with if you want. So where we had like this blue section down here, I'm gonna bring the orange. Kind of bring it up a little bit with a little bit of water. Maybe I'll bring in a little bit of yellow down here too. We were creating a little bit of the lightness down here under the rain cloud. So under the rain cloud, it's gonna be, maybe I'll do yellow and I'll do, this is gonna be so beautiful. Yellow and orange coming up over the horizon. This is the sun that's coming out after this storm. So I'm doing yellow and then maybe orange. And these are some of the final details for today's class. We have about 10 minutes left. We're doing great for timing. I encourage you to keep working on this if you wish.
I must admit, Megan, I like your clouds much better than the clouds in the picture.
Oh, you do? Thank you.
Yours is much prettier than the picture.
Oh, that's so nice of you. You all know me. I go into this class with just me, myself, and I, and the inspiration, and things happen, and we all showed up painting our own style clouds today. But I compliment you all for just going for it and being courageous, because we never know what's going to happen until we start painting, and that's in most instances. They're definitely different, that's for sure. Thank you. So we're going to do our rain cloud last, but under the rain cloud, I'm doing the yellows and the oranges. And I like that nice clean line for the rain cloud, which again, this blue area is the rain cloud. We're going to do beautiful sunbeams coming down. So we'll do that after, but paint under your rain cloud first, like I am. And I'm using water and the light yellow and the light orange just to fill this in. This is a little bit of brightness. And if you need to stretch the paint pigments, add a little bit of water. I'm running out of yellow. I'm sure many of you are. I'm adding a little water to my yellow, my light yellow, and I can do the same with my orange if I need to, but I just got enough to finish. Oops, don't drop your brush. Okay. Right. I try not to wear nice clothes when I paint because I typically get paint on me. Oh, good. So I'm just gonna fill in below the rain cloud, and many of you are tucking these colors in between your clouds to create those areas of brightness. I have one more area over here. I got distracted, which I'm sure many of you noticed on under the rain cloud, but I'm just gonna fill in any additional brightness that I need to sort in. Awesome. So I have this scene happening, right? I feel like we could spend another hour doing this. But I will give you a tip for these sun rays, which is our final step. And the sun rays, just to show you the inspiration, are coming down from the bottom of this like bottom cloud, overlapping the rain cloud. So we're creating those sun rays next. These are straight, like diagonal lines. So you can use any brush you wish. I'm going to use the same brush I'm using. I want to make sure these are watery lines. And we're going to go from right underneath the dark cloud. We're going to come, I need these to be fairly straight. So you can make some of these wider. You can make some of these skinnier, but you just want them to be straight. So that's fairly straight. Maybe I'll make a skinny one next to it. Again, straight is key.
I'm sorry, are you using just white, Megan?
Water and yellow. Water,
and
yellow to
okay.
white. It's the yellowish color that I was using.
Okay.
Same one, yeah. So there's that. If you have a lot of paint pigment, it's going to show up really bold. The idea is for it to, and I'm going to use my finger to kind of wipe some of this off. You want it to be really soft in color. See, I just wiped it with my finger a little bit. You want it to be fairly watery, so it's kind of transparent, right? Sun rays are really transparent. So be a little bit careful and pay attention to your angles. So an example may be some of the sun rays coming down. Like know where your angle, know where your source is. So for me, there's sun rays that are going to come down here are going to be a little bit more straight. And as I work my way to the left, they'll be angled a little bit. As an example. So you can play with these sun rays. Don't rush it. You can kind of do a couple brush strokes, wipe it off with your finger. If you need to come in and touch it up around these clouds, you can always do that with the darker blue. So don't worry about that too much. But some of these are all connected, so you don't have to do all tiny ones or all big ones. You can have some, just use your eye. Some are a little thicker, some are a little thinner. I'm using my finger to kind of do a coat of paint, and I'm sweeping my finger on top of the sun ray to kind of get some of the paint off. That's the technique that I'm using to get that soft appeal. Now my angle isn't perfect here. It's okay. No one's perfect. So I'm just going to kind of continue with the angle. Just do whatever feels right in this regard. This angle is going to be a little bit more steep because the other one was. Just use your eye, play with the angle. If you feel like you mess up, just let it dry. You can paint over it. Just be patient with yourself. But you can see they're going to kind of coming out this way a little bit. Just using the tip of the brush with a little bit of paint. But that straight line is important. And I'm sweeping down. It's okay if they get a little blended, right? So I took my finger, I sweeped right on top of this, just like this. Sweep it right down. Helps it blend in. It makes it look a little bit more transparent. And you can add as many of these as you want. I mean, don't go too crazy, but if you want to add in even like more smudging for it to be like even softer, you can add in little bits here and there. Water's your friend here. You could even do some that are like halfway. This is where we get a little crazy here. This one can be halfway, so I can paint it halfway and then smudge down. So it's just like a little sun ray coming down. Ooh, that's me thinking outside the box here. You can do little ones like this. But you're going to get to a point with today's class, you're going to say, Megan, I think I'm good, or I'm really satisfied with my clouds. I'm not going to touch anymore, or I might need to do a little bit more work. I'm adding a little bit more of that smudge on top. Look at that. It creates that beautiful glow. And that's with a little bit of water and a little bit of yellow paint, or this light yellow paint. I'm basically putting it on here above the top of the cloud. And I'm using my finger and smudging it kind of left, right. And it creates that really soft haze at the top of the clouds. So if you wanted to try that, you could. And my clouds, to be honest, in person, many of you probably think they look great, but there's like a lot of texturing in here where I could come in and I could add some smoother paintbrush strokes. We only had a certain window for today's class. So obviously, as you guys know, we do as much as possible, but I always will encourage you to keep painting and make modifications as you see fit. There's so much we could be doing. In addition, I could add in some light purple in some areas, in addition to the darker purple. You'll get inspired. You may want to add more things. You may be happy, but I want to applaud you all for approaching something that may have been scary. I thought you all did quite well, and I'm really excited to see your work. And you can keep working on those sun rays. Okay, and if I want to come in here and fill in some of these gaps, I can come in here more blue and bring this up a little higher. That's okay. Definitely okay. If I want to make it more orangey down here, I can make it more orangey. That's all right. but I want to applaud you all for your work. I'm going to unpin me. I want to take a look at you all. We're 2 minutes here to the top of the hour, and I may even get a group photo here. So let's check in. All right, Corinne, I see a lot of giggling and smiling. I hope that's a good thing. All right. Oh, you put a sun coming up. I love that. Beautiful. Melinda, Douglas, look at that glow. Nice job. Beautiful. All right. Lydia, nice job. Aren't these, isn't it inspiring? Clouds are just so stunning. Wow. Kathy, nice job. Beautiful and bright. I love the colors, Kathy. Beautiful. Sally, nice job. I love the yellows. Some of you went really bold with those yellows and oranges. I applaud you there. I was a little scared, I guess. There's Barbara's. Barbara, you have so much going on. I love the cloud texturing and the layering. Claudia, I love this. Oh my goodness. Let's see. There's Miss Linda's. Bridget's like, I want a ray of sunshine. I'm just going to dump some yellow on here in orange. I like that color a lot. Nice job, Linda. There's Crystal. Crystal, you are talented, my friend. Look at her clouds. They're so beautiful. Miss Crystal Mozzie, nice job. Beautiful. There's Miss Judy Doltz. Nice job, Judy.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I want to applaud you all for being here and thank you for showing off your work. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I'm just going to pause the recording.